Now, I've got to say, Hush is probably one of the best Batman storylines that I've ever read. When I first read it in 2003, I was absolutely blown away. Not only did it have a really good story, but the artwork was awesome. The artist was Jim Lee, and I'm sure at some point I had actually come across his work, but Batman Hush was the first time that I actually took note, and I actually started to look for other comic books by Jim Lee because I thought his artwork was so beautiful. And now when I do see a piece of Jim Lee's artwork, there is no denying who it belongs to. He's one of a kind, he really is, and his art is absolutely out of this world. So of course when McFarlane actually released action figures based on this comic book, of course I had to buy them, and here they are. Now I've got to say straight away that I picked this one up first, and I picked this one up second. This one, straight away, before I've even opened it, I can tell that there are issues with it. Now, I purchased these figures within a week of each other. I purchased this one first and then I purchased this one second. To me, I think I've already got my favourite. I think this one is the best, hands down. This one could have been a match, but there are certain faults on it which I just cannot ignore. That's not to say that it isn't a nice figure, because it is. I do like it, but there are some faults on this figure that I just can't ignore, and we're going to get into that right now when we do the unboxing. Okay, so, there's the shovel. So as we actually pull it out of the package, you can see in there we have this kind of graveyard diorama set, which was one of the main reasons I bought it. I thought it just looked really nice, and I thought it'd be really nice to display the figures on here. And we get the usual McFarlane trading cards as well. Okay, so there's the trading card of Hush, and there's the trading card of Batman. I've actually bent it a little bit, never mind. And here we have the graveyard display piece, which I will fix up in a little bit. And we also have two bases to stand Batman and Hush on. And we actually get quite a well-detailed shovel, which is included in the box. I wish they would have coloured in this dirt around the edge. That's something I can do, but it would have been nice to have that coloured in a brown or a darker colour. And we also get these very two plain looking batarangs. I think we'll start with having a look at Hush. And straight out the box, it's a very nice figure. The sculpting on it is beautiful. I like all the sculpting detail on the coat, how they've got all the folds in and the flaps. As you turn it around, it carries on all the way around, which is very nice. I think they could have put a little bit more detail around the belt area and some of the buttons. That's an ongoing issue with McFarlane. Sometimes they don't put enough detail in. Sometimes the figures look absolutely amazing. But it's quite an easy fix. I can actually touch this up myself if I decide to. But all in all, it's a very nice figure, and I think the face sculpt is especially nice. I like this open mouth pose he's got here. I like how they've sculpted inside the mouth, the teeth and the tongue. It's really nice. It's looking very, very sharp. Actually, it's really good. But in all honesty, I didn't actually buy this box set for the Hush figure. I bought it for Batman. I collect mainly Batmen, so even though this figure's nice, it's not actually what I wanted out of the box set. I just wanted Batman. So there we go, we've had a look at Hush, so we'll just put him to one side now. And here's the Batman, and I've just attached the base to his foot because I was having a little bit of trouble making him stand. He stands a lot better with the base. I'm glad they included that. And as you can see straight away, there is something obviously wrong with it, and if you can't see it, allow me to point it out. It's the joints in the arm. They've actually painted it fully black going into the greyness of his suit, and it doesn't quite look right. This is something that upset me when buying it. When I initially picked it up in the shop, to be honest, for some reason I didn't notice. I just didn't notice it. It was only when I got it home and I was having a look at it. It's blindingly obvious now. I don't know how I missed it in the shop, but this for me is a big issue. But I suppose if it's posed in the right way, I could probably make it look, somewhat decent. I can probably hide these colour differences. But it is a massive mistake by McFarlane to make. They are normally quite good when it comes to detail and painting. But, it is what it is. We can't do anything about it now. On whole, the figure, I think, is actually very, very nice. It's a really, really nice Batman figure. It's probably one of the nicest ones. It's just this that lets it down. As you see, we've got some very nice detail on the bat emblem. I really like that bigger bat emblem style there. I'm not quite sure if it is the same bat emblem that was in Hush. It looks slightly different to me. Actually, it's not far off it. Actually, it's quite accurate. Actually, I take that back. So as we bring the figure closer, you can see it is very nicely detailed. McFarlane very rarely let me down. I am a McFarlane collector when it comes to Batman, and I tend to like every single figure they brought out so far. This is the only one I've had issues with, and if I'm being honest, it probably doesn't upset me as much as it would other people, but it is a big issue. Anyway, I'm going to stop talking about it now. As we turn the figure around, you can see that the cape, once again, is very nicely sculpted. They always do a really good job on the capes with the McFarlane figures. A few of them I have opted to change and customise the capes myself, but straight out of the box, the capes are always quite nice. I do quite like them. And as we pull it closer, we can see that the belt is all painted yellow. I think McFarlane could have put a little bit more detail in, maybe to the buttons, but all in all, it is nice. And I suppose in the comic book, it does seem to be painted all yellow on some of the pages at least. And here we have it set up on its display piece, and I think this is actually the set's main selling point. This display set is actually very, very nice. I love the headstone, what says "Here lies Jason Todd." The detail on the actual ground is amazing. They've got all this rubble, soil, bricks in there. Looks really, really good. And as you can see, I've posed it in such a way where the colour difference in the joints doesn't really pose much of a problem. I would say you can't actually notice it from this angle. So, all in all, I think it is a very good solid set from McFarlane, and I picked it up for around £30, which in my opinion is a bargain, because you're getting two figures here from like £15 each, and you, in a way, you're getting this set piece here free of charge. I think it is a really nice set. But they did bring a variant figure out to this one not long after, the blue and grey variant, and is it a better figure? Let's find out. And here we have him out of the box, and I am using the base again because he is quite top heavy and I'm having trouble getting him to stand. See, I'm using the base again because I am actually having a bit of trouble making him stand. I think he is very top heavy, but with the stand, he stands no problem. And as you can see straight away, I think this figure is the better one. It is definitely more eye-catching. I really do like the blue and the grey, which is a weird thing for me to say because as a kid, I never used to like the blue and the grey. I wasn't a fan of it, but I think this really pops on this figure. It really makes it stand out. I think overall, it is the same figure as this one. We'll bring it closer in a minute and have a closer look, but for some reason, this one just really pops. Obviously, it's the colours. The colours really do make it. It really does look really nice, and the sculpt on the face is actually different, and I really do like it. It actually looks like a Jim Lee piece of art come to life. Just like the other one, it is very well sculpted, well detailed. Like I said before, we've got the joints, which are painted the right colour this time. As we turn it round, we have a very nice sculpted cape, just like the black one. I think it's exactly the same. And yeah, it's just really nice. It is really nice. There is one thing that has just catch my eye, and it's this gap here in between the cape and the shoulders, the cape and the cowl. That is quite eye-catching. On my shelf, you won't be able to see it, but it is something I've just noticed. I'm not sure whether I can move it around and fix that. I don't think so, but that is something that's caught my eye. But it's not a big issue at all. It's just something that caught my eye. It's just something I thought I'd mention. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to bring this Batman figure forward, and we're going to have a look at them side by side. Here we have them next to each other, and I have just been examining them off camera to see if I can find any kind of difference in the figures. And if I'm being totally honest, I can't really find anything apart from the face sculpt. I can't really see a mega difference in the sculpt. I think it is basically the same figure. Actually, I'm quite sure of it. But like I said, for some reason, my favourite one is this. Even if this was painted correctly, I think my favourite one would still be this. I think it just really does stand out. It looks really nice. Like I said before, the colours pop, and I really, really do like the face sculpt on this one compared to the black variant, as you can see. And as we turn them round, you can see the sculpt on the cape is exactly the same. It is an identical figure. There's no difference in between them apart from the head sculpt and of course the colour. For me, like I keep saying, this one wins hands down. It is just beautiful. So there we are, the two variants together, so you can see them side by side. As you all know, I'm sure I've made it clear by now that I like this version. I like the blue and grey. I think it is hands down the best one. But that's not to say that this one isn't nice as well, and I think the set piece really does do it proud. I weren't originally going to keep the Hush figure, but I think I might now. Although Batman would probably actually look nice on this set piece on his own, I think the Hush figure just makes it, so I probably will keep him in my collection. But like I said, and I can't say it enough, I really do like this figure. I really do. Now, you may remember way back in 1992, DC Comics did something very daring, very risky, and they killed off the main character, Superman. Now, the main reason they did this was because of declining comic book sales, and it worked. Comic book sales went up after the death of Superman. So, in 1993, DC thought they'd do something very similar with Batman. But this time, instead of killing him off, they just decided to break his back.
Now taste fear. Wait, what? Oh God! Oh, my back just snapped like a pack of uncooked spaghetti!
This storyline was nothing short of amazing. In the comic, Bane breaks out all the inmates of Arkham Asylum just to wear Batman down because he has no option but to round them all up and put them away again. At the end of the first part of the comic book run, Batman has succeeded in placing most of the inmates back in Arkham Asylum, but he suffers burnout. He is physically and mentally exhausted, and this was all part of the plan by Bane to wear Batman down, to tire him out, to crush his soul, to break him. Of course, eventually Batman returns, no pun intended. But the event that happened in those comic books is just as iconic as the death of Superman. I absolutely love those comic books. I used to sit up every single night reading them in bed, over and over again. They were so good. And now I'm really happy that I actually own the figure out of that comic book run, and this figure is quite unique compared to all the other Batman figures out there. So without further ado, let's crack it open and have a look. Now, first of all, let's start by looking at the box. It's nothing special, it's just your normal McFarlane box, but they have got this nice piece of artwork on the back with Batman taking out the Mad Hatter. This is an image off one of the front covers of the comic book run, I believe. I've actually got this image in my graphic novel. There we go. Now, obviously, as you can tell right away, the colour scheme on the box and the comic book are totally different, but the artwork seems to be the same. Okay, so first of all, you get usual McFarlane Toys trading card. These are growing on me. Like I said in my last video, I wish that I'd kept more of these. Normally I just throw them away, but from now on I'm going to start keeping these and putting them to one side. You also get your standard discs to stand Batman on, and I'm telling you, these are a godsend because some of these Batman figures from McFarlane Toys do not want to stand up, and the first one that comes to mind is probably one of my favourite ones, the Hush Batman. And up until now, this was my favourite figure. I don't know whether this one is going to take its place. And when it comes to the accessories, I'm afraid it's rather lackluster. You do get two grasping hands, I think that's what you would call them. And you also get a single Batarang, which is quite cool, but it's very basic. And here he is, the main event, the figure itself, and I've got to say, this figure is really, really nice. I said this about all the McFarlanes that I get out of the box, because 9 times out of 10, they are really good figures, apart from a few exceptions. This one, I really do like the colour scheme on it. You don't really see many Batman figures with this kind of colour scheme. What I mean by that is, of course, you get the grey and blue Batman, but the colour of this grey suit is very light compared to some of the others. Like I said, I really do like the Hush figure. And this is a Hush grey and blue suit, and when you put the Nightfall one next to this, you really can tell how bright this one actually is. And here he is closer up, and like I said, I really do like this brighter grey on the suit. I think it is really, really eye-catching. I like the blue of the cowl here, I like the blue of the shorts. It's really nicely painted. It's got all these nice little bits of detail in the suit where you can see the creases of the suit, just like you could on the Hush figure actually, but I would say on this one even more so. I'm not sure whether it's because you've got the lighter grey or not, but it really does show more that this is a material suit that Batman is wearing. And if you look at the belt, you've got the classic capsule belt that you saw on nearly every Batman illustration from the 90s. I really do like that. And the sculpt of the cape is nothing fancy, it's very basic, just kind of blowing in the wind there. But I do like it. Sometimes I think simplicity is best. As we turn him round here, you can see his gloves here have got the very classic spikes from the 90s. Nothing too fancy, just very basic. And the design of this Batman is very simplistic. And I think simplicity is actually a good thing with this figure because it really does look nice. And it really does do this figure justice. I know 9 times out of 10 we're always moaning that we want more detail, but this one, it has all the detail packed in here, but it's very subtle. And I really think it really does make the figure look all that better. Now looking at your emblem, I really do like it. It's your classic black and yellow Batman oval emblem, and I think it really does look nice. Mine has a little bit of scratching here on the yellow, which I've just noticed. I might touch that up, I might not, because from afar I can't really see it. But yeah, that's a bit of a shame that the scratches are. Another thing I've noticed is the head doesn't look quite right around the jawline on mine. Now, looking at it from the side and looking at it from this side, you can't really tell. But looking at it straight on, there's something off about this jawline here. I'm not sure whether all the other figures are like that. If you've got a figure and yours is looking a little bit off, I'd love to know in the comment section. Onto the actual face, the mask is really, really well sculpted, apart from the jawline. And the face is really, really nice with a different shade of paint here for the lips. It really does look good. So overall, I think it is a really nice Batman figure. It's very simplistic, which I think is good. It doesn't quite match up to every single panel in the comic book. Obviously, it's drawn by different people in the comic, and on some pages, Batman looks different than others. But I think it's caught the essence of the Nightfall storyline. And yeah, I think it's just a really nice Batman figure, and if you don't have it in your collection, I think you should. Now, I don't know about you, but my all-time favourite Batman has got to be Michael Keaton. Without a doubt, he just wins hands down every time. And even though over the years we've had some amazing actors play Batman, such as Christian Bale and Robert Pattinson and Ben Affleck, I will always have a soft spot for Michael Keaton. I think he is hands down the best Batman. So you can imagine how excited I am, and I'm guessing a lot of other people are, to see Michael Keaton play Batman once again in the upcoming Flash movie. And I for one cannot wait. So of course, when McFarlane announced that they were releasing a Michael Keaton version of Batman for the upcoming movie, I just had to have it. So let's crack this open. You know, I remember a time when you couldn't really get hold of a Michael Keaton Batman. You had the Hot Toys version, which was way out of my price range at the time. I have actually pre-ordered one now, ready for next year's release. But at the time, there wasn't really that many Michael Keaton Batman figures on the market. And then NECA released one. But when NECA actually brought that action figure out, I was absolutely over the moon, because I'd always wanted a movie-accurate Batman figure, a Michael Keaton Batman figure. And then it kind of went quiet for a little bit. I think NECA brought out the 14-inch Batman figure, which I didn't get and I wish I had. But the market kind of went quiet for a while. And now with the release of this film, 1989 Batman seems to be everywhere. McFarlane have released this, they've released a Batmobile, they're releasing a Batwing. It's amazing. I'm just hoping, and you may be able to tell me this in the comments, I'm hoping that they release some 1989 Batman, the actual 1989 Batman from the 89 film, instead of just like versions from The Flash. I would love to see a figure from the actual 1989 movie. Hopefully they'll do that. So accessory wise, we've got 2 hands which are balled into a fist, and we have a batarang and we have a grapple gun, and for some reason these are painted silver. They may be silver in the new movie. In the 89 movie they were black. They do look quite similar to that 89 movie. They look more or less the same. So maybe this is a paint mistake, or maybe they are actually supposed to be silver. I don't know at this point, because obviously I haven't seen the film yet. And here he is, and I must say, I've only had him out of the packaging a couple of seconds, and I'm already really impressed. It is a excellent action figure. And I must admit, when I first saw reviews of this guy, and when I first saw promo shots from McFarlane Toys, I didn't like it. I mean, I liked it, but I didn't think it looked great. I thought it looked very bland and very plain, and I just didn't think it was a very good figure. But what I often find with McFarlane Toys is that when you're actually holding it in your hand and you've got it in front of your own eyes, they look 10 times better than they actually do when you're looking at the promo shots. that's just how it is for me anyway. It's like that with a lot of action figures for me. When you've actually got it in your hand, it just looks so much better. And this one, I can say, is one of those figures. And here he is closer up, and I will say straight away, most people are not going to be happy with the side eyes. It's an ongoing thing with McFarlane that they keep adding to these figures, keep giving them the side-eyed glance. I don't mind it, if I'm being totally honest. I don't mind it one little bit. I think it's nice to have a bit of difference now and again, but a lot of people like the figures looking directly forward. It doesn't really bother me, but I know it will bother some of you. The figure is really nice. It is really, really nice. I'm looking at it from what I've seen from the trailer, the Flash trailer, it is pretty screen accurate. Obviously, I've not seen much of his suit in that trailer, but from what I'm looking at here, it does look pretty much screen accurate. The boots have this strange yellow tint to them. I'm not sure why that is, whether that's from a scene in the film or whether it's just part of the suit. I'm not sure why they've got this yellow shine to them, but it doesn't really bother me. I have a friend who has actually bought this figure. He has a channel on YouTube called Jimbo's Customs. Give him a shout out there. And he hates this. He absolutely hates this, and he's going to paint them black. I'm going to keep it as it is for now and watch the film and then decide whether I'm going to paint over it or not. Also, my friend hates the belt. He hates how it is all black. And I've got to admit, when I first saw the trailer and he didn't have the yellow belt, I didn't like that. I wanted him to have the yellow belt like in the film. I think it would be nice if the yellow belt was included because it would break up the costume, but they've opted to go for this black belt. Now, when I actually watch the film, I'm going to try and see if they've put any detail into this belt, and if they have, I will go over it myself with a very fine paintbrush and put some detail into it, just like I did with the Patterson Batman. His belt was very black and very plain, and I went over it with a little bit of silver, and it just brought the figure out so much. It really did make it pop. Another thing I love about this figure is the cloth cape. I think it is absolutely fantastic, and it's something that we do not see enough on the McFarlane action figures. They've normally got the rubber molded capes, which I think are fine most of the time, but I have actually included my own cloth capes onto a few of the figures because I just think it looks so much better, and I wish they would do this more often. I believe they've only done this with this figure so we can fit in the Batmobile that they've also brought out, but going forward, I would thank them very much if they would actually include the figures with these cloth capes, because they are just so much better. Especially if they included some kind of wire so you could actually pose the cape. That would be absolutely fantastic. The inclusion of a cloth cape is a big plus for me. When I first saw this figure in the promo shots, I wish that the cape came a little bit further down towards this bit here, but like I said, looking at it in person, it doesn't bother me that much, and actually, you can actually move it yourself, and it actually does come a little bit more forward, which I think looks a little bit better. As you can see, you got the classic bat emblem on the yellow background, and this time they haven't made the mistake like they did in the 1989 Batman movie. They've actually gone for the Batman Returns kind of symbol there. And now let's have a look at the face sculpt. Does it look like Michael Keaton? Kind of, it does. It's got a resemblance there. It's not NECA quality resemblance, but there is a little bit of a Michael Keaton look to it. It's got a bit of a Val Kilmer look to it as well. He's not got the Keaton lips, I'd say, but there is definitely a look of Keaton there. You can definitely see where they have made an attempt. Detail on the suit is very nice. I do really like the sculpting. It would have been even nicer if this belt was yellow, like I said before. It would have broke up the suit and it would have just made the figure pop. But McFarlane have obviously gone for screen accuracy, and that's what it's like in the film, so that's what we get. Like I said, my friend is actually thinking about painting this yellow. I want it to be as accurate to the movie as possible, so I'm going to leave it be. If, like I said before, if there is a little bit more detail on the belt, then I will add that, but I'm going to keep it black. Overall, I think this is a fantastic figure. I really am pleased with it. I couldn't be more happier, to be honest. I think it is really, really good. I've been looking forward to it for so long, and now it's actually here, and it's so nice to see it in person. If there's one negative I can say about it, and it's not a big negative, it's not something I can't fix, but if there's one negative I can say about it, it's the ears. For some reason, on top of the ears, it's kind of been rounded off at the top. If you can see, they've actually added this little bit of extra plastic at the top, and I don't know whether people were complaining that they were catching themselves on the ears, or like, I don't know, pricking themselves on the ears, but I think it is a strange thing to do, because these are more or less adult collector's figures. I don't think I would have bought these for my son to play with when he was younger. You know, adults are the ones buying these, so I don't know why you have to put these little safety precautions on top. Saying that, maybe children are playing with them, I don't know, but they have done that. It's not a big deal. I can round it off, I can trim it up, and I can have them looking a little bit more pointy. It's not a big deal, but that is, for me, the only negative I can say about it. I absolutely love this figure. So here he is next to the 7-inch Michael Keaton Batman, and I've got to stress that this is a different costume to this one. But obviously the NECA one does look a lot better, because NECA are masters when it comes to detail. That doesn't mean that this is a bad figure. I really do like this figure. I must admit, it looks a little bit cartoony now next to this one. But I do still really like it, and I think it is a fantastic figure. But obviously NECA is gonna win hands down against anything McFarlane put out. Now, I must admit, ever since this was announced, I've really been looking forward to receiving it in the post. And when it finally became available in the UK, I ordered it, it arrived, and I've had it in my possession for about a week now, just waiting to record. So I'm not going to make this a long-winded intro, because I really, really just want to crack this open and have a look at it. Okay, so in the box we get a trading card with a picture of Batman drawn by Jim Lee on the front there. It's something that we have come to expect from McFarlane now. They always seem to include one of these trading cards, and I must admit, I wish I'd have kept more of them from the early figures I've collected. I tend to just throw some of them away because they are quite nice, and like I said, I wish I'd have kept more of them. We also get this oversized stand, obviously because it's an oversized figure, to stand in on. And I will say, here he is, he will not stand without this stand. He simply just falls over. So be very careful when you're fitting him to this, because if you break this, I don't know what you're going to do. And here he is, and I've got to say, he is everything I expected. He is fantastic in every single way. And for the price point, when you consider this figure was $39.99, it's amazing. It is simply amazing. The detail and the amount of plastic you actually get for your money is out of this world. And here he is a little bit closer up, and I've got to say, McFarlane have really gone above and beyond when designing this figure. The detail in it is amazing. And even when it comes down to the smallest of details, like here where he's bending his knee, you can actually see the creases in the suit. You can see the creases in his trunks, and of course the cape is beautifully moulded, and it's this kind of rubber material that's been moulded into this shape. That is quite nice. I like how it's posed as though it's blowing in the wind. And here we've got the Jim Lee version of the Batman logo, which looks like it's been torn straight from the comic book. And there's no bleeding either. The paint work is immaculate on this, as far as I can tell anyway. The detail to the actual Batman belt looks really nice. It's got a kind of weathered look, and it's got like a metallic-y golden shine to it here at the front. I like how he's holding the cape. It kind of blends in as one because the gloves are the same colour as the cape, but it doesn't make any difference whatsoever. It does look nice. As well as the creases in the suit, there tend to be a few scratch marks, like it's been battle damaged almost. Like he's deflected a few knives here and there with this suit. And I must admit, I do really like the blue and grey colour we've got going on here. I must admit, when I was a kid, I hated blue and grey Batman suits. I think it's because I had such a passion for Michael Keaton, who wore all black. I couldn't accept anything else but a Batman who was all in black. But as I've got older, I do like the blue and grey suits. I think it looks very smart, especially how Jim Lee drew it. As you can probably tell, there isn't much articulation in this figure. And I say not much because the head does actually move. You can move it left and right. So you can have him looking that way, you can have him looking this way, or you can have him just looking straight forward. Or you can have him doing an exorcist if you want to. but when I display him, I am going to have him just looking straight ahead. And here he is next to the smaller version, also made by McFarlane Toys, which I've got to admit, this is fast becoming one of my favourite Batman figures of the year. I think it is absolutely amazing. It's a lot better than the black and grey version they gave us in every single way, and it just looks really eye-catching, and the colours make it pop. On closer inspection, the sculpt work on this and on this seem to be very, very close, and why wouldn't they? They are the same design. The belt buckle on this is shiny, this one it isn't. The belt on this isn't that weathered. That's something we've come to expect from McFarlane Toys. They don't get absolutely every detail right sometimes. And the suit on this figure seems to be a darker grey than the suit on this figure. Would this figure have looked better if the suit was a darker grey? Maybe, because I do really like the colour scheme of this one. But it doesn't ruin anything. It is still a fantastic figure. And at least I've got one in a light grey and a dark grey. So in conclusion, it is a fantastic addition to the collection. It is really, really well detailed. It is really, really well painted. And best of all, it was $39.99. You cannot go wrong with that. And believe me, this thing has quite some weight to it, and it is solid. I half expected it to be hollow inside for the price, but it is a very sturdy, strong figure. Like I said, today I'm going to be showing you my customised version of the Batman figure that I actually did myself. Now, when the McFarlane Batman figure was released, it was met with a little bit of criticism. You either loved it, hated it, or you met somewhere in the middle. Now, I think anybody who owns this figure will have a hard time denying that it is actually a very good figure, and it is quite screen accurate. And when you compare it next to figures such as the Mezco version, which is a very, very higher price point than this one, it's actually a very good figure, and I think it actually competes quite well with the Mezco. Obviously, the Mezco will probably be the better quality figure, but for the price point, this is absolutely fantastic. But it weren't without its problems. The paint job on the actual figure was a little bit lackluster, you could say. There weren't a lot of details put into the suit. Now, I must admit, the thought of me actually taking a figure off my shelf and customising it myself fills me with dread a little bit, because I don't consider myself to be that good at it, and I don't want to ruin a figure that I've already paid money for. But I thought with this figure I'd give it a shot. Because the figures are only about £20 each, I thought if I mess it up, I can always just buy another one. Plus, it looks easy enough to do. I thought to myself, you know, even you can't mess this up. And I think looking at it, I did a pretty good job. And if I can do it, trust me, you can do it as well. Now I'm going to bring the camera forward and I'm going to talk you through some of the very simple steps that I took to customise this figure. And I just want to say thank you very much to Jimbo's Customs, who actually directed me on how to do this. And he actually provided the pleather for the cape as well. Now, like I said, I don't expect anyone to think that this is absolutely perfect. Like I said, I am a complete novice when it comes to customising. But saying that, I don't regret doing this one little bit. I'm actually quite happy that I did do it, because I think it looks a lot better than the figure that we initially got out of the box. And to do this customization, all you need is some black pleather. Like I said, this was provided to me by Jimbo's Customs, but you can actually pick it up for quite cheap. I think it's probably about £9–10 a metre on eBay. I may be wrong about that, but it isn't expensive. And then I used acrylic paint, which I already had, so that cost me nothing as well. As you can see, I used a silver acrylic paint on these gauntlets. I must admit this was the hardest part for me. I messed it up the first time, I had to wipe it off and start again. But the end result I was quite pleased with. And then I went along with my acrylic silver pen and I put in all these details to his belt, the little belt buckles, and the outlines around some of the pockets. And this little piece here, I'm not sure what that is. I think it's some kind of handcuff maybe. And then I did the belt buckles here as well. And it just gives it that little bit more detail and it makes the figure pop. I also put a little touch of silver paint on the bat emblem and I brushed it with a dry brush to give it that metallic look. Like I said, it's not perfect, but it's miles better than the figure we got from McFarlane. Even though that figure was actually quite good to begin with. Some might disagree with me on that, but I thought it was a very good figure. Now, when I was actually putting the details onto this figure, I had a picture from the movie, like a screen capture, and I was trying to get it as accurate as I could. I noticed in the movie he has these little gold markings on the corner of his arms, so I tried to put them in the best I could. They're not perfect, but it's there, and it's that little bit more detail that weren't on the original figure that makes it now stand out more. And as we bring it a little bit closer, you will notice that I tried to give the mouthpiece a bit more of realism by brushing some brown paint into it with a dry brush, so it didn't like stick onto it too much. It gives it a more realistic skin tone, I think. When it came out of the box, it had a very, very pale skin tone to it. And I know Robert Pattinson does have a very pale skin tone, but it just didn't quite look right. It looked too plasticky. So I think this really does add to the realism of the figure. I know you can't really see it that well because of the lighting. Let me just turn the lighting up a bit. There you go. You see what I mean? It's just got that little bit more realism to it and definition. Like I said, when it comes to the cape, this is a material called pleather. You can buy it off eBay. What I did with this, I took the original cape off and I traced around it on cardboard, but made it a little bit bigger. So it's got the same shape, but it will have more, obviously it'll have more flow because the McFarlane capes are moulded to look like they are creased and folded. So with this one, I give it a little bit more length and a little bit more width. And then I cut it out. And then by removing the old cape, you had a little bit of a gap underneath the chest piece here where you could actually tuck in the cape, and I glued it down, and luckily it glued down quite perfectly. The first time I did it, I actually glued my thumb to the cape, and when I pulled my thumb away, a little bit of the pleather effect came with it, so I had to start again. But luckily on the second attempt, it went quite well. What I also did when designing this cape was put a bit of wire on the inside of the edge of the pleather and then glue it around the wire. Now, like I keep saying, I'm not a perfect customizer, and if you move the Batman figure a little bit closer, you can see there where I've made my mistake. So be very careful when you're doing the wire because it will punch through the cape. It's an easy fix. I can just push it back through and then fold the cape around it. But, you know, we're not perfect, but we can get some pretty good results with just a little bit of patience and work. Now, the main reason I did this video today is because I've been seeing a few reviews going around on the internet about this figure, and every single review I've watched, they've kind of been disappointed with the figure, rightfully so. It wasn't perfect, it had issues, it's got the side eyes, the paint application weren't great. But what I'm trying to tell you is that with maybe an hour of your time and the right materials and a little bit of patience, you can make it look a lot better. And if I can do it, so can you. I must admit, I haven't actually read the comic book that this version of Batman came from. I just liked the figure. I thought it looked really cool, but there were a few things about the figure that I didn't quite like. Number one, the shorts were all grey. He didn't have any black trunks on, and for me, it doesn't quite look like Batman if he hasn't got the black trunks on, even if they can be a little bit questionable. So I coloured in the black trunks black. I did a little bit of a touch up to the belt, and I give him the pleather cape as well, which I think really does make it look all that much more better. So now I'll bring the camera forward and we'll have a closer look at him.